is back. We begin, Stephen, in Greece, where the country is taking a step closer to exiting its bailout.
That's right. It's going back to the international markets today for the first time in 4 years in an attempt to raise cash for public funds. The sale is expected to be around 2.5 billion euros worth of bonds, but we're told it's massively oversubscribed. Some 11 billion euros investors have wanted to invest in these Greek bonds. What we'll be watching for when this sale takes place is the yield or interest rate that Greece will have to pay on that debt. You remember, at the height of the crisis, it reached levels of up to 30%. We're expecting the rate that they're going to be selling at today to be around 5%, so a really huge reduction there. But this, as on top of the recent good or positive signs coming out of Greece as regards its economy. We saw the country post its first primary budget surplus, that's budget surplus excluding debt repayments, in 2013 of 1.5 billion euros. It's set to exit its 6 years of recession later this year, and all that has led to those borrowing rates falling. But there are still problems in the Greek economy. Unemployment key among them, over 27%, the highest rate in the European Union. The debt to GDP ratio still massive. The amount of money Greece will have to pay back at over 172% of GDP. And at the same time, most workers have taken an average salary cut of 30%. For opposition MPs, in any case, this won't move to the markets, won't change things for many Greeks.
Exiting the markets is one thing, but exiting the crisis is another. Those who are celebrating and those who are using the return to the markets as pre-election fireworks should keep their mouths shut, because the harsh daily difficulties of every Greek has nothing to do with the triumph that the government is talking about.
Now, look at the latest from Greece. How are the markets this morning, Stephen?
Generally positive start here in Europe across the board. In fact, the biggest gain seen on the London's FTSE 100, not massive, but up 0.3. Actually, the DAX has overtaken it now, I can see. Shares in the luxury group LVMH here in Paris opened up 2% after posting better than expected results. Over in Asia, the Nikkei in Japan closed flat after yesterday's 2% fall that we'd seen. Fairly positive picture across the rest of the Asian markets as well. You can see the Shanghai Composite up 1.4%. That despite the news that there was a sharp drop in China's imports and exports in March, which has led to some fears about the world's second largest economy.
Now, here in France, Stephen, many questions since Manuel Valls spoke to Parliament for the first time as Prime Minister about how the government's going to bring down France's deficit, particularly as he's announced more tax cuts for businesses and the least well off.
Exactly. Very difficult maths being done in the French Finance Ministry at the moment. France has to bring its budget deficit below 3%. That's the EU rule. It's supposed to do it by next year, but the current forecasts say that they won't be able to reach that target. Now, since his appointment, Manuel Valls has been very careful not to specify whether or not they will meet that target next year. He said it's something to be discussed with his European partners. There are 2 government advisors gone to Brussels today to discuss that at the European Commission. They're hoping to plead France's case for more time. The EU Commissioner Michel Barnier has been speaking about this on French radio this morning. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
I don't think France should put itself in the position of requesting a deferment. I think we're capable of avoiding that. I think France needs to keep its commitments, which have been reaffirmed by the President, and not break the pact of confidence it has with other European countries.
Let's take a quick look now at some of the day's companies' news. Sales at the world's second largest retailer, Carrefour, fell by almost 4% in the first quarter, but the figure stayed close to expectations thanks to growth in emerging economies, including Brazil. In Carrefour's biggest market here in France, sales were up 1.4%, while sales fell in Italy and in China. The British retailer Marks & Spencer's has reported modest sales growth of almost 2% in the last quarter. The growth was led by its food products, which were up 2.5%, but there was also surprise growth in its struggling clothing division. Sales at its international operations, which include 3 stores here in Paris, were up by almost 5%. Shares in the company in positive territory in London this morning. And Hewlett-Packard is to pay US regulators over $100 million over a corruption scandal at the computer maker. The fine is over allegations that government officials were bribed in Poland, Russia and Mexico to win and retain public contracts. A former HP executive in Poland has been charged over handing over some $600,000 worth of equipment to the head of IT at the country's police headquarters.
Now a look there at the day's business news. Stephen, thank you very much indeed for all of that. It is 22 minutes past 9 and Florence is back, this time for a look at the international